Hello and welcome to the latest of my deep dive videos. Today I'm going to explore one of the most exciting events in the astrological calendar. It's when the Sun, at the heart of all our existences, connects with Jupiter, the planet of growth, adventure, independence, but crucially, potentially, of good fortune. Now this event becomes absolutely exact on the 11th of April at 10:06 p.m. Universal Time. But actually they've been building up their impact upon one another from the 7th of April, and that peaks on the 15th within 3 degrees. So we need to understand what that period's called as well. The Sun in Aries is very much a passionate, enthusiastic and initiating influence. But what about Jupiter in Aries? And with them together, what does that mean? And if we look at the event chart, when the event is at its exact moment, what other influences are feeding in that we can really get some idea of what the wider impact will be on this particular year's event. Last year it was in the watery Pisces. So of course Aries is about new beginnings, and we had that new moon on the 21st of March. We've got the solar eclipse also in Aries on the 20th of April, and we've got the North Node reversing into the sign of Aries on the 13th of July. So a lot of fresh, thrusting energy that we need to look at. I then will go through each of the 12 zodiac signs from Aries through to Pisces to give you a flavour of what you can expect. Now, if you would like to understand what more serious astrology can bring to your world, if you do give me 3 pieces of birth information, I can prepare for you your life roadmap report. This will give you a much greater intimacy of the patterns that have played out in your life so far. Also, my special package, you can get your 12-month personal forecast and gain Syrian insights. If you don't know your time of birth, you can also order my solar package, which offers the same things but just not the ascendant. It's based on the Sun. Please see the link beneath this video. There is 30% off on both. So first up, let's think about what the Sun, which is technically not a planet, it's a luminary, means in the sign of Aries. So we're talking about passion, initiation, drive, enthusiasm, action. We're talking about verve, and also we can see an injection of ongoing energy to strands that are important to us already, or some new beginnings. But it can give Aries people a lower attention span because they really feel switched on when things are fresh, and they can make something happen very quickly. Now Jupiter in Aries, Jupiter is the ruler of 2 zodiac signs, and I feel that its archetype of its rulership of Sagittarius is what most people think Jupiter is about, which is about being very expansive, enthusiastic too, adventurous, independent, but also happy-go-lucky in certain situations. There can be a tendency to exaggerate, but there also can be a real desire to embrace a lot of travel, culture, philosophy. Anything to do with international affairs and borders is also influenced by Jupiter through Sagittarius. But its rulership of Pisces can, I feel, get a little bit forgotten by YouTube astrologers. And this is where it's much more of a spiritual dimension. It can be to do with traditional religions, but also much more to do with where we just want to get in touch with a higher purpose. But certainly there can be a real excitement around anything to do with growth, and the pioneering spirit that Jupiter has can see us to go for situations that other people or at other times we may resist because we'd rather play a little bit more on the safe side. Now when they're together, we're talking about a really wonderful combination. In traditional astrology, Jupiter can be said to be the planet of luck, and whatever our circumstances are, this particular aspect gives us the chance to improve on where we are. Now, for some people, that may be a real desire to get a travel or a vacation plan on the move. So it could be to actually go away somewhere. But if that's not immediately possible, to get something booked. There can also be a really sort of quite upbeat and bubbly kind of energy, and I think the Sun conjunct Jupiter is encouraging us to feel that everything's possible. But what we must also do is under promise and over deliver, because it's very easy to get caught up in the exaggeration that Jupiter can bring in the fiery Aries, and actually say that we can do all sorts of things and then find it difficult to deliver on that. But if you are someone who has got an idea or a hope or wants to improve your situation, this can be a time when we can really be mightily on the front foot. Go for it, give it everything, whether it's around work, whether it's around a property matter, whether it's around a business idea, our social situation, our interests, or perhaps even our love life. So a time to be as super optimistic and positive as possible, but we have to be aware it doesn't guarantee success, but I feel it does heighten the odds quite considerably. Now, on the screen now, we have the solar chart, based on looking at the chart in terms of 0 degrees Aries, the vernal point as being the first house cusp. And here the Sun and Jupiter are conjunct, Cazimi, in the first house. So potentially about new beginnings, but can be about injecting greater drive and traction into ongoing strands. So what else can we see that's going on in this chart? Well, the moon is right at the top in the sign of Capricorn, where it's, detrimented in the 10th house. So our feelings are going to be close to the surface. But you can see in house 4 we have Mars. So we've got the moon and Mars in positions that neither of them are at their best, and they're in opposition. So that can create some quite intense energies, and at times some flips. So our emotions can be a bit up and down on this event, I feel. Also, if you see where the position of Pluto is, it's in an exact trine with Venus. Now that's a very nice aspect. Again, if you're an air or fire sign, when it comes to relationships, that's a really helpful portent. But if you look at Saturn in Pisces and in house 12, it's very close to the midpoint between the moon and the sun. And this is where it's always important to look at the totality of an event and not just pick out one aspect and focus only on that. We have to understand the wider vibe, and therefore the midpoint of the sun and the moon, which is the balance of this event's energy in terms of the two luminaries, is actually checked by the restrictive energies of Saturn. So I feel that whilst we can be very optimistic, hopeful, that's all very, very good, we just need to be mindful that something from our past or our own psychological inhibitions or fears could prevent us from really flowing with the opportunity that this provides. To be fair to Saturn, it does actually forge a really nice sextile to the North Node, which is much more stable. Now let's just have a look at the natal chart. So here we've got the moon is in house 2, everyday money, and very much to do with self-worth. Mars in 8, very much to do with instant gratification of a more sexual variety, but also our need to look at our finances. But again, there can be sort of some real ups and downs in terms of our emotions. So when it comes to personal relationships, although Venus and Pluto are beautifully aligned, and that can help us to understand who can be really good for us, with Saturn checking Venus in a square, we also could have some disappointments. And again, it's important to see the event as a whole. You can see that Venus is on the 7th house cusp. So however much we try to be a people pleaser, rather grisly Saturn could come along. Someone could be a little bit of a killjoy and prick our bubble. But the actual event itself between the Sun and Jupiter is in house 5, very much about buoyancy, demonstrating our talents, being very charismatic. It's a very sunny influence, house 5, very Leonian, and can be very good for romance. So I feel if you're lucky enough to be following the uplift, the thermals from this event in a positive way around a relationship, it really could be very good indeed. If, however, you're hanging out with people who are not so good for you, that turbulence that can be caused by Mars speaking out in a very impulsive way against the sensitivity of the moon in Capricorn, or Saturn checking the relating, if rather flirty, skills of Venus, and the midpoint being affected by Saturn as well in a disassociate way, because it's just at the end, the midpoint in Aquarius and Saturn's in Pisces. It just suggests that it's not necessarily going to be a perfect event. But I'm not trying to be a killjoy in any way at all. So having the Sun and Jupiter together in house 5 points towards the potential for some sociable encounters, to be investing in our creativity, artistry and talents the best we can. But I feel that our emotions may be a little bit up and down on this event. And when it comes to our relationships with others, it's just Saturn and Pluto in their relationship to Venus are going to tease out what's not working in the case of Saturn, but also help us to understand what we really want, or who is really important in the case of Pluto. So please stay with me as I go through each of the 12 signs. So Aries, for you, obviously this is happening, you're hosting this event, and you've been benefiting from Jupiter's influence for some while. I just feel that with all this Aries energy around, there is a sense of freshness, but there's a paradox, because with Saturn holed up in your 12th house, maybe whilst new things come in, old things are going out, and it could be quite stark, the difference between the two. I think you just need to believe in the things that you're instinctively drawn towards. That's very much a combination of this energy in a positive way. So if something feels good, go with it. If it means that something gets left behind, I think you need to be philosophical about it. Now for you, Taurus, actually this event is going to emphasize the more spiritual dimension of Jupiter through its rulership of Pisces. And you get a chance to think very deeply about what some of your bigger motives are in life. You know, what are the things that, the higher purpose that really is so important. We can get caught up so much in money, in desire for consumer goods, you know, for refreshing our wardrobes regularly, all these things that are nice and really important. But this event for you particularly is asking you to think about what really matters, you know, what matters in a spiritual context. And I think, you know, you do have a chance for huge growth from this. Also, your ruler Venus being just on that second house cusp, it's just moved there for you. It's possible that some kind of good news is going to fall for you financially. But I sense that with Saturn in the sign of Pisces, if there's a concern around your finances, it could be feeding into your sense of security ongoing, and that's something that's very important to your peace of mind. But if you're someone who's doing very well professionally, I think the thing to do at this time is to celebrate the more spiritual dimension of that. So really like the cups in tarot. So if there's good news around you, raise a chalice to what you're achieving, but stay very much in touch with the more feeling side of it. Now Gemini, obviously having Venus just turned up in your sign is absolutely lovely. Expect to be very much, if not in demand, someone could be really drawn to you. In fact, more than one person could beat a path to your celestial door over the next few weeks. And certainly you could think very much about your persona and how you present yourself. So I feel that the bubbliness of the Sun and Jupiter could see you want to get together with friends, do something socially, but also give yourself some kind of glamorous makeover in some kind of way. It's just that in some kind of professional relationship, as much as you may want it to work in terms of your network, and it could through the guise of Pluto, and there can be some very influential people supporting you, equally something more starkly can be flagged up that isn't working around a professional relationship. That opposition between Mars and the Moon goes across your 2nd and 8th houses, and that's suggesting you could be a little bit more impulsive about spending some money. Perhaps it's going to be on refreshing your wardrobe or your personal look. But seriously, the chance to mix and mingle network is really strong. But I think with Saturn influencing Venus in your sign, be drawn towards the people who are most sincere. Cancer, for you, Jupiter for some while has been emphasizing your worldly hopes, goals, ambitions. You're a cardinal sign, you're a leader. People don't think that. They think it's all about nurture, being locked to the kitchen sink and making apple pie. Absolutely fabulous. You're always welcome at my house once you release yourself from your sink. But the fact is, you are someone who's brilliant at running things. And I feel that if you've applied for a job or you're doing a presentation, you can glow in a very animated way, which really could attract goodness to you. But because Venus is pitched up in your 12th house, if your global or worldly aims are different from someone you're involved with romantically, that's going to become really obvious at this time. And I feel you're wanting people to really salute you and acknowledge the skills and qualities you have. You're really earnestly needing acclaim. Leo, now of course the sign of Aries is a fire sign like yours, so sharing your fire tropicity is a real great thing. And both the Sun and Jupiter have great influence on your sign, of course. The Sun rules your sign and the first 10 degrees, the decan, and the second decan is governed by Jupiter and the third by Mars. The sign of Aries is ruled by Mars, which hosts this event. So this is a lot of conductivity in a powerful way to the energies of your sign. And for you, it really is an opportunity to head off somewhere, do something more adventurous, break some of your own inner tendency to stick with what you know and more familiar patterns. Being a little bit more spontaneous at this time will be like a breath of fresh air. What's stopping you? Saturn possibly, could be money, 8th house. But having said that, Venus in the sign of Gemini now is very sociable and links in a very meaningful way with Pluto. If there's someone that you're chatting with at a distance, or it's through work and it's someone who shares your philosophies, or there may be a contractual matter you're discussing, it all could be very positive for you very quickly. Just be aware, however, that with Mars in your 12th house, opposite the Moon, if there are some things going on around your emotional life which are not so easy, I feel that what the Sun and Jupiter will do is amplify them. So just be conscious of that. Virgo, for you, the Sun and Jupiter combine in house 8, very much to do with the things you share, intimacy, sex, can be to do with your business nous, your entrepreneurship, can be to do with how you manage your mortgage, pension, investments, if you are lucky enough to have those things, and to work on those things in a very sort of optimistic way, because that is a key word with Jupiter's combination with the Sun. But of course also Jupiter can see us take risks where we'd be better to stay safe. So I wouldn't be too impulsive. And with Mars and the Moon opposite one another, maybe someone close to you could be egging you on to try something different. Then again, Saturn in the 7th house is an anchor around your relationships. So I feel that If you are in a romantic tie which you are really committed to and it's going well, this can be a very helpful event. If you're in one that's not going so well, I feel that Venus being right at the top of your horoscope and the fact that Mars and the Moon are in opposition could mean that some friends, do give you some insights or share some points of view that could give you food for thought. So the 8th house can be a vat of discovery. It's where we dive deep, but you can undoubtedly gain in a more material and practical way. Libra, now for you, I'm absolutely delighted because obviously Pluto's been hammering Libras for a long time, but Pluto now, briefly as we know, through to June the 11th in Aquarius, but in a gorgeous link with your ruler, which is in the part of your horoscope to do with the truth around relationships. But there we are in your sector of relating, the Sun and Jupiter side by side. Is this a gilted opportunity to bring someone influential and important into your life? Yes. Will that definitely happen? Not necessarily, because the stars can't control what we do for ourselves. Your circumstances may make that difficult, but I think your relationship to your relationships can be given a huge boost of enthusiasm and positivity. And sometimes in life it's all about momentum, and if your social or relationship sectors have not really been giving you much satisfaction of late, this can definitely be a jolt to get you going again. But you are given a warning around an ongoing relationship. If you're showing too much generosity of spirit and not getting much back, Saturn's square with your ruler is saying, look, set your boundaries. Scorpio, the combination of the Sun and Jupiter is in house 6, which is really good for your physical vitality. But if you want to apply for a job, this can give you the extra sense of self-belief to go for it. Now we do have the opposition between your traditional ruler Mars and also the Moon in Capricorn, so choose your words with care. And with Saturn in the part of your situation to do with romance, if you are wanting to engender that in your situation, I think sincerity is going to be very important at this time. But Venus is in a sector now, just moved into it, which is very much to do with desire. So exciting. So Sagittarius, just like Leo, you're lucky to share the fire triplicity with the sign of Aries, and of course your ruler Jupiter is involved in this event. So I do feel for your sign this is really good, particularly if you are wanting to emerge from a period where there has been so much emphasis on the practicalities of your life, work, structure, organisation. It's just been not necessarily the sexiest of times, but this event can really see your natural charisma, bubbliness, exuberance really come to the fore, and it could be you that's ringing up people and saying, look, let's get together and have a good time. You also have Venus just in your 7th house. That's great for relationships, forging a beautiful link with Pluto. If you're meaningful in your personal expression, be really good for you. Some good fortune can fall for you. I'm just not wanting to fall into the trap of making this so simple, because you do have Saturn in the 4th house, which can lead to limitations around where you live, who you live with. Your immediate environment could be getting you down a bit, and if in a relationship you're not getting the acknowledgement back that you want, I feel that with Saturn squaring Venus, I feel that what will happen with this event is you may quite wistfully think about how it could be if situations were different. But if you are single, this is really exciting, a great opportunity to get together with people and have some fun. And that brings us to Capricorn. So for you, Capricorn, you have the Moon in your sign in this event, but Mars is opposite. So it's going to be quite to the point over the next few days, certainly through to the 15th. With the Sun and Jupiter together, you may be enjoying any improvements that you've made to your home and feeling very satisfied with those. There may be a property matter that you're actually discussing, whether it's selling, or it's getting a lease or a rental or buying somewhere, that wouldn't be a surprise if that's in your thinking at the moment. But there could be a family gathering, a reunion, and that could be really lovely. If you can get together with people who are meaningful, whether it's extended family or blood relatives, I feel that that's a great way to serve this event. Aquarius, as I mentioned before, air signs and fire signs are going to love this event. And of course, if you have any planetary position that is around 20 to 22 degrees and it links in an angle to the Sun and Jupiter, then it's a great way to get some uplift. But for you, it's all about your ideas, your persuasion, your enthusiasm, your knowledge. Jupiter, very much about wisdom and higher knowledge, and your ideas, but delivered in a quick, sharp, perceptive, observational way, can really see people drawn to your message. So, you know, whether you're a writer, whether you keep your own diary, whether you're someone who has a blog, whether you're someone who just likes to chat with your friends in your local pub, I think your bubbliness is really going to bring good things to you, especially with Venus and Pluto in the mix in a lovely way. It's just financially, I feel that things could be still a little tight or a little worrisome, but keep going through the processes and believing in your talent. You're going to get there. And Pisces, last but not least. So for you, of course, last year, this event occurred in your sign. I want you to think about what you visualized when that occurred, which is about 13 months ago, because Jupiter, of course, is your traditional ruler. So this for you happens in house 2. So if we are thinking about games of luck and fortune, flutters, this is ideal territory. But I'm not encouraging anyone to gamble. I'm just saying if that's something that you're drawn to, then you could be in the mood to have a little bit of a flutter on something that you can afford to stake on. I think I must say that. But the other thing that you could find irresistible on this event is good food and wine. If you're lucky enough to be together with people, sharing those things can be delightful. But if you have been on a diet plan, it could come under massive pressure. But with the Moon and Mars in a tense opposition, what you want in terms of your future, the Moon, in terms of you expressing who you are as an individual, if those two things are out of kilter at the moment, or your financial situation isn't very good, and we have all been hit by this huge rise in costs, so we've all had to sort of find new ways of, or not all, but probably most of us have had to find a way of economizing, then it could seem that everyone else is having the uplift other than you. So the thing you can focus on is your self-worth, but not in a material way. And that self-worth could come from planting some lovely home vegetables, cooking a lovely homemade dinner from scratch, and also just celebrating and honouring your integrity around your core values, which often gives you a great generosity of spirit and kindness, particularly to those who are less fortunate. So even if you've got no one around you at the moment, romantically or even socially, do know that what you invest in your work to help others is something that does bring you a higher place, and that's something to really be conscious of. So raise, whether it's a glass of fruit juice or a glass of wine, raise that toast to yourself. It's been a real pleasure being with you. Thank you so much for joining me. I'd be delighted if you would subscribe. Please click or tap the bell notification symbol. Comment on the video. Take care for now, and all the best with this very bubbly event.